Hello and welcome to yet another YouTube video here on this channel. In today's video, we are going over a lot of the basic functionality that you need to use Microsoft Loop, because this is an application that has developed a lot the last year. So I want to cover a lot of the basic things you need to actually start using something like this. So this will be a very basic Microsoft Loop tutorial where we will set up everything and I will show you how everything works inside of Microsoft Loop. But in order to do that, I first have to delete all of my pages, and Microsoft Loop is actually uh, Microsoft's new like Notion competitor. I don't know if it is new any longer, but a lot of people have been wanting something like this inside of the Microsoft ecosystem. And if I were to say who this application is for, I would probably say that this is the best one for best for people who live in the Microsoft ecosystem. I mainly use this at work, so I wouldn't choose this at home as my personal productivity application unless your personal stuff relies a lot on the Microsoft ecosystem. I think that is where this application shines, is the fact that it is a part of Microsoft 365, and you also get Microsoft Copilot inside of here, which I won't cover. Now let's go over a lot of the basic stuff. So Microsoft Loop has pages, and you can actually nest a page underneath another page like this. So if we go ahead and we call this home, so I am just going to show you how I would set this up for myself. I will just go ahead and remove myself from the screen so you can see a lot better. Now we have created home. I can go ahead and I can add a cover to this. Let's just do the landscape one and add an icon as well. I find that I like to do this. In general, I just feel like it looks a lot better. And then there are two main use cases for Microsoft Loop. The first one is as a wiki tool, as a note-taking app, and more of a place where you just jot things down, you write things down, and you collaborate on things. So think of this as a way to take your notes. Basically, that's one use case for it. The other one is actually project management, and we are going to cover both of them. So for note taking, I would personally just use Para, and I would do it as simple as possible. So if I go ahead and I delete this, I would then just add my resources and my archive, and also my areas and projects. That is probably everything you need. So resources, archive, and I also need areas, and the last thing I need is projects. So let's do projects. So one thing to keep in mind about Microsoft Loop, as you saw there, is that it is a little buggy. The application isn't perfect yet. So there is still a lot of work that needs to be done. And to make this thing right here work, to make my projects work and the Para system to work, I would start off with a table. And tables, you might think that this is just one simple table. It isn't. It is more of a database style. So think of this more as Excel and less as Word tables. Not that it is as powerful as databases you have seen in other applications. We still lack features like a filtered view. So the same database can live multiple different places. We also lack like general things like a formula column, which a lot of applications do have. So I've seen formulas in everything from Notion to Monday.com. So that is something you would expect them to add at some point, but we have a few properties, a few column types. You have the text type, you have the number type, date type, person vote and label, and you can add labels here as well. So what I will go ahead and do, I will start off with a project name, and I will start add a label here as well. Let's see if I can use one of the ones that already exists here. So progress or Kanban would probably be one of the two I will use. I will use the Kanban one because I think these labels look a little better with the emojis. Um, and last thing I wanted to add is start date. So let's do start date, or actually let's do deadline instead. That is much more important. And you could customize this however you want. So you could add a new date called start date, and you could remove the things I'm showing you here. But I just wanted to show you how the application works in general. Here I can switch my view to a board view. So I can do a board view here, or I can go back to the table view like this. One thing to keep in mind about the board view is that you can actually, if you have multiple different label types, you can actually choose which one you want them to be grouped by. We also have filtering abilities inside of here. So I can do filters based on all of my column types. So, for example, I can filter based on things that are in progress, just as an example, and I can apply this. Or I can go back and I can clear all of it, and it will only show me those things. And that can be done with all of your different properties here. And I think databases inside of Microsoft Loop is at least a little important. I wouldn't say as important as in many other applications, but I will spend a little bit of time on this. What I would do here is that I would do backslash and I would do subpage. That doesn't always work. So what I tend to do instead is that I create a new page with the project name. So let's call this test project like this. And I will drag this underneath my projects. And then you can actually search for it later. So I could do a test project, and this will probably show you another bug. And it does. So one other thing that is an issue with Microsoft Loop is that these loop pages you create do not show up in your search uh, right when you create them. You often have to wait a little bit, is my experience, until they actually show up. So if I did a new video tomorrow and I actually searched for test project, it would show up. But it doesn't right now. So there is a workaround for this as well, where I can just go ahead and I can share page link, because the way Microsoft Loop treats these backlinks is what they're called, so links to different pages, is actually just like a regular URL link. So I can go ahead and I can change this to first project, and it will change to first project, but it will open up my test project. It takes a little while, but that is because my internet is slow. Doesn't have anything to do with Microsoft Loop. So that is basically how I would set this up, and I would do to do, and I would add a deadline here. And I mainly work off of the Kanban view. I almost never work off the table view. One filter that I like to add inside of here is that Kanban is not completed or done. And I would apply this. And that is because I want my completed projects to be available somewhere for me to find them. I want them to be searchable. I want them to be available in my databases if I ever need them, but I don't want them to clutter up my view. So that is just something I like to do when I do projects inside of here. This is actually how you would do project management as well, but more on that later. Um, so that's how I would set it up. Alternatively, you could do test project in here. And you could actually open this up as a card like this, and you could start writing here. And you get a lot of opportunities here as well. But for example, I can't add subpages underneath here. Apart from that, you get a lot of the things you would want. So it is up to you. I like to use a lot of subpages. So this test project here would probably have a bunch of subpages underneath it. And that's why I like to have it set up like this. But you could also just use the cards here. Let's say you wanted to add a sub project underneath here. Like I said, you can do backslash and you can press new sub page here and just create a new sub page. This is much faster. So new sub page for test project. So this actually works much better. Unfortunately, it does not work inside of the databases as I mentioned earlier. If I do backslash here, I don't get that functionality, unfortunately. So that is how I would do my projects. My resources here, I would probably just put things underneath this. So just drag things underneath this, but you could do a database inside of here if you would want more structure. Alternatively, you could just do a bunch of sub pages underneath here like this. So new sub page and just go on and add new sub pages. They will show up like this, but you can also change the link options to a URL and then go ahead and change the URL by clicking edit link or control K and just changing the text like this. So I would just have a bunch underneath each other. It isn't the best way of doing it, but this isn't the best note-taking app either, but that is a possible way of doing it. Maybe with a little bit of information over here. So let's say I would do, just as an example, things I have to do this week, things I have to do this. This is a terrible example, but you get the point. I would do like subheadings, and most likely I would turn this into, I would make this as a collapsible heading. So if I search for collapsible heading 3 things to do like this. One other thing you should keep in mind about Microsoft Loop is that it is block-based. That means that you can drag these blocks wherever you want. So I can drag it up here, I can drag it back. Also, another thing to keep in mind about these classal headings is that there's sometimes they feel a little hard to work with. So just keep that in mind. I would also probably, if the page starts to get too long, I would add a table of contents just so I can more easily click to find exactly the thing I'm looking for. Areas I would do as subpages. So just let's do my own brand, my own social media brand as the example here. I can do backslash and I can do subpage like this, and I will get another subpage. Again, as I mentioned, you can add icons and covers. We will call this the name of my company. Now, if we go back to areas, I would actually have it like this, more like a call out or a link preview. Then I would have it like this. I don't like this for my areas. I think this looks a little better. That's just personal. You could also change the link preview. Uh, that's basically how I would set up all of my areas. And if I jump into them, I can actually link back projects. So that is something I like to do. Let's say this first project here, this test project, is something I want to live in multiple places. I want it to live here as well. I can actually add it inside of here as well and have the project live in multiple different places. So again, something to keep in mind about Microsoft Loop is this backlinking and the ability for information to live in multiple different places. So we have covered the main basic things. You have a left sidebar here where you can see all of your different workspaces, meeting notes, ideas. This is things that you can jot down. I have only used the ideas when I have actually when I've actually either for a YouTube video, but real use cases, I've only used it on the go. So when I don't have time or I'm on my phone, I like to jot things down quite quickly. That is mainly what I use this for, an inbox feature. So something I write down that I move into one of my pages later. You can see your reasons and you can see your notifications. Your notifications come up whenever someone actually tags you into something. So that can be done by pressing at and tagging someone. So that is quite easy to do. That covers all of the basic aspects for this as a note-taking application. I personally think that it is an okay note-taking application if you work in the Microsoft ecosystem. If you do not work in the Microsoft ecosystem, I think there are a lot of better options out there if you just want to use this because of its features. That I think that there are better options out there personally. But if you are stuck in the Microsoft ecosystem, I feel like this is the best like no code, note taking project management tool that Microsoft has. It is probably the only one, but I really like this for building out your own workspace. A couple of other things you should keep in mind if you want to use this for project management. So basically what I would do for project management is the same like table idea by creating a task list, for example, like this, and I could add things inside of here as well and remove things. This is a template that they create. I can actually open these in different task applications as well. So let's just call this a test task and assign it to myself just for fun. Due date, let's say it is done tomorrow, and to do it is in the to do option. I could go ahead and add more options here as well. I can actually choose to open this in Planner or in to do, something you should probably know about Microsoft and Microsoft Loop is that the point is that it should seamlessly integrate to all other like Microsoft applications. I could also use the Kanban board template like this. This is probably how I would do project management inside of here. And I would jump into here and I would write my notes about the task. Or you can also add like sub items either here or you can add them here like this as well. This application also works with Markdown, so you can create a task item just by doing square brackets like this, and you would get all of your you could get all of your checklists or sub items underneath here if you wanted to as well. Um, so I like this for project management. You could also, as I said earlier, build this out yourself exactly the way you want, but I think the templates are quite good. A couple other templates that might be good to use is the team retrospective. If you are familiar with Agile and Scrum, this might be a great thing to have. You can add a progress tracker here as well to keep the progress of your different tasks or projects. So the templates for project management are actually quite good. That is the main things you should know about Microsoft Loop for project management and for private note taking. The last thing I wanted to mention is that every block inside of Microsoft Loop can be turned into a loop component. So that means that both these tables here, but also like just a block of text, and I can actually highlight multiple blocks of text. So let's just write test a couple of times. I can actually highlight multiple blocks of text, press this button right here, and create a loop component. One good tip about loop components, I learned this the hard way, is to actually change the name of your component, unless you want to have an issue with finding things later. Again, I learned this the hard way. Uh, Give it a name, and once you copy this is specifically for people who work with a lot of other people. I think that makes sense, but if you work in a team, for example, this is great. You can control the access of this, and you can also just copy it and you can paste it, for example, in Teams, in Outlook. I think it works in OneNote as well, and people will get this. I can also make sure that this lives in multiple different places. I forgot to copy it. Let's try one more time. It is supposed to work if I copy this component here. So now it is copied. I can jump in here and I can paste it here, and it will show up as a loop component inside of here as well. And this works in Teams, it works in Outlook, it works in OneNote, and I think the point is it works in Microsoft Whiteboard. I don't know if anyone has ever used Microsoft whiteboards, but it works there. So it works in multiple different places. This is also a great way to make sure that your information across your pages, if one piece of information has to live in multiple different pages, it is a great way to make sure that that information is always updated no matter which page you are on. So that was it. That covers most of the things. This is a really basic tutorial. If you have any questions, any things you want me to cover in the future, please do comment down below and I will try to get to it as soon as I can. Thank you so much for watching today's video.